Welcome back to Following Films, the podcast where we dive deep into the minds behind today's most exciting and thought-provoking cinema. I'm your host, Chris Maynard. Today we're heading straight to the dust, danger, and drama of the Wild West, with a very special guest, director-writer Brian Skiba, who joins us to talk about his latest film, GUNSLINGERS, starring Stephen Dorff, Heather Graham, and Academy Award winner Nicolas Cage. GUNSLINGERS is a gritty, high-octane Western thriller where justice rides on a hair trigger. When America's most wanted outlaw lands in a quiet Kentucky town, chaos erupts. Brothers clash, bullets fly, and vengeance rides hard and fast. In this conversation, Brian gives us an inside look at crafting the story, assembling an all-star cast, and what it takes to bring an explosive modern Western to life. So saddle up. This is Following Films. Saddle up. I'm sorry and mostly embarrassed. I wrote that down and I actually said it. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Hey Brian, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing, Christopher?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. Thank you.
So I am a sucker for a Western. I'm wondering what it is about Westerns that continually draw people in. This is just a genre that has existed since the beginning of film and continues to be one that just, people come back to, time and time again. It doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I hope it stays around for a while because westerns are definitely it's like a mystique. I think it's a mystique. I think it's one of those. It fits right in there with swords and sandals and sci-fi, where it's people can put themselves into this world that Western specifically once existed. It definitely once existed. We all have our favorite ancestor that we're distantly related to that did something in the Old West, and so it's definitely one of those genres that are very, very that people can easily put themselves into and see themselves riding a horse with a six-shooter and the hat or in the big dress with the push-up and that kind of thing. And so it's relatable in a sense that people can escape. It's one of those. It's an escapism for sure as far as the genre goes.
Oh, absolutely. And especially I live in Tucson, Arizona. So as far as projecting myself into it, I look out my yard and it kind of looks like half the Westerns I've seen. So it's not really that much of a stretch for me. But I think a lot of times similar to other genre like sci-fi or horror, oftentimes Westerns that's the setting, that's not the plot. That's not the story necessarily. So, and I think yours fits into that where you're telling a story that could have easily been told in contemporary times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the cool part about it is you can take contemporary stories and put them into these settings that allow people to escape and to escape the day-to-day humdrum. And I think that's what entertainment and movies are about is some sort of escapism.
Yeah, could not agree more. And it's just one of the things that I really enjoyed about this film is while it does have several serious, darker moments to it, that you can tell that everybody here is having a lot of fun. There's stuff that is definitely heightened throughout this film, beyond just Nicolas Cage's performance, where he's doing wonderful Nicolas Cage isms throughout, which is a take I had never seen before. And man, I had fun with it. But I think a lot of people here, and Heather's super grounded here as well. So you have kind of all over the place, but it somehow works where it doesn't feel like they're in a different movie per se, but it does feel like they're definitely coming at this material from a different point of view, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it was important to me because it was such an ensemble, and that each character had their own uniqueness about them. Because I think that's what's important. Sometimes you get stuff that's a little too. You get ensembles that are a little too one note. Everybody's putting on the same performance. They're talking in the same voices, and it's like that's not real life. I mean, you get around your friends, and everybody's different, and that's what makes an ensemble thing is everybody's different. And when you hang out with your buddies at a bar, not everybody talks the same. Not every you have the different personalities. So if you can put that into a film where everybody has their own different personalities, and and for me, it's important that everybody that it's defined what people want, what they're and what they're looking to accomplish, and try to give each character a little bit of an arc, and either an arc or some sort of special performance that's memorable. So I feel like Cage's character definitely has an arc, and it's
Yeah.
memorable. It's for sure. So when you have that kind of supporting cast, you want to create memorable characters, and not have everybody just all serious and all the same. And so I develop these characters in a sense of, okay, everybody has their own uniqueness about them. Um,
And also, Stephen Dorff is doing, he's one of those guys that's grown into just this really interesting, almost character actor in a lot of ways, where he has, the face of a leading man, but he has this like soul of a character actor where he just wants to really push things at times, I think. And he just does a really, really interesting performance here. Could you talk a little bit about casting him? Because if really more than anyone else, if his performance doesn't work, I think your movie doesn't work.
Oh yeah, for sure. So Dorf and I have done, this is our fourth movie, I believe.
Mhm.
He had before he had always been a supporting, or he had been the bad guy, and we had always talked about, man, let's do something where you're the lead. You're solidly the lead. The movie's about you. He's a lead in all these other movies, but it wasn't necessarily his story.
Right.
This one was, let's make you the lead. Let's make the story about you. Let's develop this thing. So he was there from pretty much the start. Like Steve and I talked about this, and I told him what I was doing, and he was like, "Man, I want to be the good guy." And I was like, "Well, the good guy's bad, but okay, the bad guy gone good." So it's a little, and we play with that. We play with that theme because I feel like that theme's very Eastwood. It's very Unforgiven, Town
Yeah.
Black, the good, bad, ugly. It's bad guys being good are doing good things. So definitely, Stephen had a lot, and we would talk about the character, and we talk about things, um, and so I was able to write it with his voice in mind, knowing that he was going to play Thomas, and then Stephen, when he read the script, he had very few notes. I mean, he came in and was just like, "Man, you nailed it," because I wrote it knowing he was going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here listening and hearing his voice, and it was really it was really nice to be able to write that way, and then Steven just is a committed actor. I mean, one of the most committed actors out there. He shows up, he's intense on set. He wants everybody to do their job right. He knows the script inside and out. He knows his part inside and out. He'll know what's 5 pages. If we're on page 67, he knows what's going on in 78, and he's
Yeah.
correcting everybody else. And that's Steven's strengths, and what's made him such a phenomenal force in acting, and given him such a fantastic career. I mean, he's all over the place right now. I mean, he's on Gemstones, making us laugh, and then he's in this movie just killing it. So.
That's where the watching those two things side by side, and because I'm current with it and watching that, this final season of Gemstones, that he's, my God, the guy can do everything. It's really impressive. And you talk about the idea of writing in somebody's voice, and I've always been curious about this because when I read, I often read in people's voices, and I mean that quite literally. In my mind, I'm doing an impersonation of somebody if I'm reading a book. If I start with a audio book and then flip over to the actual book itself, the hardback, I start doing an impression in my mind of the narrative of the narrator. When you're writing in Stephen's voice, are you literally doing an impression of him in your mind? Not that you're like sitting there and saying it out loud, but do you hear him saying it?
That's hilarious. I actually do say it out loud. And I do do an impersonation. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's good, I
No,
wouldn't
no, no, fair enough.
perform it for anybody, but I definitely have do an impersonation. That's very Sorkin. I mean, I took Sorkin's master class online, and he reads everything out loud, and so
Mm.
I'll write, get through my first couple of drafts, and then I'll start saying it out loud, and my wife will walk in and be like, "Is everything okay?" Yeah, I'm working. So, but yeah, that's for sure how it goes.
Well, I have a problem sometimes when I'm writing because I'll do a little bit of writing where I have to read the introduction to this podcast and I'll write it and then it sounds fine in my head. And as soon as I start saying the words out loud, I'm like, who the hell wrote this shit? How can you say this? And so you
Yeah,
have to go through that process and actually hear it out loud. I think to have it, there's just rhythms that you don't pick up on when it's in your head that you can just have this sentence go on for a long time. It all makes sense. And then when you actually hear it, it's not in the rhythm of a natural voice. So I think it's
exactly.
really important. Um, so where did you shoot this?
Cave City, Kentucky. So southern Kentucky,
Okay.
just north of Nashville by about an hour. So.
Oh, nice. And then what was it like shooting out there as far as I was having a tough time placing it because it's not typically where you see a Western. That makes sense. So was this around the winter time when you were shooting it? Because it looked so almost dead at times where you were.
Yeah, no, it was actually March. It was supposed to be spring, but it was still dead.
Oh, okay.
And because they had a late winter last year. It actually snowed on us while we were there a couple of times. And yeah, and it's a great look. When I initially wrote this, I definitely wrote it as a dusty Western because I'm actually
Sure.
from Oracle, Arizona. I was born in Oracle, Arizona.
Oh, I'm one of probably two people who know what you're talking about as far as
Yeah,
excellent.
that little dusty town outside next
If
to the
you're
military.
going the back way, you'll come across it. So yeah,
Yeah, so I was born there, and so I grew up going to Old Tucson, and I loved
sure,
the dusty westerns. I loved that kind of thing, and so I initially wrote this for the dusty western. I thought, well, I'll go to New Mexico. Well, the New Mexico tax credit isn't exactly as it's all cracked up to be, and I kind of was like disenfranchised with that whole process, and so.
sure,
I was like, I got to find a different place. I started looking at different locations, and I went to AFM and met the Kentucky people, and they're like, hey, we've got two old West towns, and I was like, nah, I don't know, isn't Kentucky like super green?
yeah,
And she started showing me pictures of it, and it was like really dead and bleak. And I was like, well, that's a very interesting look. That's something you've not seen in a Western, and not recently. And so I flew out there, checked out the location, checked out the town. The town was in total disarray. We had to rebuild a lot of that town to get it to where it's at now. And it was, but the bleakness. I started taking video with my phone at the town and sending it to Patrice, my DP, and I was like, "Man, look at this! The sky against with these trees." And I said, if we keep the trees dark and then we have the sky behind them, it's giving this great, like, very ominous kind of feel. And especially with where the gallows, where we located the gallows,
yeah.
we built those gallows there on purpose because we wanted those trees behind
Mm.
the gallows. And yeah, really gave a cool look to the film. I think it's a standout from the dusty westerns, which I still love. I love the Tucson landscape, but
Well, most of the westerns I love are ones that weren't shot in the Southwest, but most of them, quite a few of them, were shot in Eastern Europe. The spaghetti westerns were all shot over in
uh,
Italy, so it's all these other locations. Ravenous, I think that was shot in Bulgaria or something like that. I can't remember, but it's these taking that idea of what the American West is, but then you put it in this other landscape that just emotionally feels right. That it's maybe not the actual landscape, but it just hits this tone that's right. It's like using set design where you're just using this location that hits an emotional beat. And I think that yeah, this was definitely the right look for a film like this because if it had that dusty west, it would be a wildly different film. So, and I think that it helps with not only the darkness of it, but it has such a bleak sense of humor. This film that I think it really does help with that as well.
yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely hopefully a few laugh out loud moments in there. I mean,
I think so.
there's T-Moss character that has some great moments. Cage has some great moments. Yeah, and that's things again. And even though we have this kind of like serious storytelling arc, I always like to litter my films with little memorable moments. Where you walk out, you're quoting what a character might have said. So,
Well, I think that that's any movie that is utterly serious the whole time. And there's a place for it. There's a time for it. There is a distancing that happens when, for me personally, because the darkest times of my life, I often find humor.
Yeah.
There's that thing that you lean into. And while these people are, I assure you, I mean, there's a reason they call it gallows humor. It's because there were moments, you go to a funeral, if you're with close friends, you will laugh at times that are very dark. And when you're remembering, you're sort of celebrating people and you're in those darkest times, you will do that. It's when you have a distance from it and you're trying to be reverential and you're not close to the person, not close to the story, whatever that thing is, that I think we take it a little bit more seriously instead of being honest in the portrayal, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
So then how's the reception been to the film so far?
Oh, great, great. I
Yeah,
mean, the people that have seen it have enjoyed it. They've enjoyed all the cageisms and the action, and definitely get what I was going for, which was kind of an homage to these, the spaghetti westerns, to the to the Clint Eastwood westerns, those kind of things, and a little Shakespeare thrown in there. So
sure. For good measure. I mean, it's not as far as like Deadwood being done in iambic pentameter, but you're in there's definitely your nods. I can see that.
yeah.
Um, the glasses for Cage, was that something he showed up with, or was that something that was your idea? Because that's one of those things that you just see that and you go, God damn. All right, we're in for one. Let's do it. Let's see what this
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So Cage and I, when he said, yeah, we had 2 weeks to get the show up off the ground. He and I were constantly on the phone. We were talking through Zoom. He actually owns the bowler hat. He was like, hey, I really want to wear this hat. I was like, oh, hat's cool, man.
Yeah.
Uh, definitely a different character. We started building his costume around that hat. The costumer was sending him looks, sent his clothes to him to try on. And then he's like, I feel like I need to wear glasses. I want to wear some sort of glasses with this character. So we started looking at glasses designs, and he found online these cross-shaped glasses that were very modern. They're
Hmm.
plastic modern. And he said, do you think you could do something along these lines? And so I sent it to my production designer, who had them all custom made to fit the time period. Because it was like, first I looked up, did this exist back then? And the answer was yes. And so then I was like, all right, guys, make me these glasses that are cross shaped, but that would fit in the time period. And so one of these guys who's just absolute talent, Bruce Mitchell, he went out and built these sunglasses that were very period correct. 100% you could have found these back then for sure. And so he built them from the ground up that way. And then when Cage showed up and put them on, he was like, I feel like there should be a voice with this guy. and,
He didn't
and,
come up with a
and
voice.
yeah, and so he started pitching me ideas on voices, and we went over all these different voices, and then we landed on the one he did, and that was his character. It's a great masterclass in character development. I mean, he's one of the greats as far as building characters. So
Well, it's one of those things where I think that if you get caught up and you're thinking, is that period correct? You're probably watching the wrong movie at that point. If that's what you're looking for, then I think you're gonna have too many points. But if you can see those glasses and you go, yeah, I don't care. I'm in for the ride. I'm gonna have fun with this. It's great to know that they were period correct. But I just honestly, I didn't give a shit. I was it was fine because I liked the choice. So it's one of
yeah,
those things where you just look at it and you say, okay, that works for this, for what's going on. It feels authentic to the piece. I don't care if it's authentic to reality because it's consistent within the narrative. I love sci-fi. I love horror. So as long as you're consistent within yourself and don't break your own rules, don't care.
yeah, no, I mean that was really it. So mhm.
Awesome. Well, I got to tell you, man, I really did enjoy this film. And I think this is one of those ones that there's not many that I can sit down and watch with my 14-year-old son. And I could have watched it with my dad. Or, it's one of those things that the legacy of the Western and films like this, that there's a reason why they're such a big part of film history. And I think that if you don't appreciate a Western, there's probably a huge swath of filmmaking that you don't appreciate. So just one of
Yeah.
those ones that's easy to recommend. And I think you got a special one here, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. I agree with you. Westerns are one of those genres that encompasses everything that it takes to make a film. And as a filmmaker, it's one of the toughest films to make for sure. So,
Okay, I know we're at time right now, but I got to ask you one thing. What's the the next one on the bucket list for you? You've done the Western, you've done the action films, you've done those kinds of things. Do you have something? Is there like a musical or something else that is in there that you just have I need to get this done before it's all over?
Musical would be fun. I don't know. That'd be fun. I'm working on a few more with Lionsgate, and I've got a horror film that's taken. It's been 7 or 8 years in the making that we're
Oh,
finally
wow.
finishing up. So, but yeah, it's we'll see. You never know. You never know.
Just the fact that you get to wake up every day and do this for a living is kind of the rarefied air. Pinch yourself. So I guess we can't be too greedy with the what's the thing that I need to do next. So the fact that you get to do this is pretty damn cool, man. So congratulations and good for you. And I can see why they want you to keep doing it because you're making some good ones, man. So congratulations, Brian.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Nice to meet you. Take care.
Meet you. Take care.
Years gone, and what do we have to show? Wasted time that I know, and fear's gone. And where did all of it go? And my pride and my mind follows my pride. So what's wrong with fixing and plastering though? Oh, nothing. Oh, nothing. Not anymore. So sing your victory song. Pretend that nothing is wrong. Like you don't know. The bandits finally came off. The scars are left to show off. On with the show. Fading songs. Let's not repeat the show. Spite, might, and I don't know. Left, wrong. Rewind, give it a go. And my spite and my might follows my pride. So what's wrong with fixing and plastering though? Oh, nothing. Oh, nothing. Not anymore. So sing your victory song. Pretend that nothing is wrong. Like you don't know. The bandits finally came off. The scars are left to show off. On with the show. So sing your victory song.